Hi, my name's Hamp. I'm 59 years old, and I have primary sclerosing cholangitis, or PSC for short. I was diagnosed in 2020, and I was recently added to the liver transplant waiting list. I wanted to start this channel because over the last 6 years of living with PSC, I have never personally met another PSC patient. And most recently, a couple days ago, I was released from the hospital for the third time this year with a cholangitis flare. And so I figured there's no better time to start than today. And what I want to do with the channel is have a place where people can see a common story. Because when I was first diagnosed, I couldn't find a lot of personal stories specifically about PSC. In a place where caregivers and loved ones can also see what the journey's like and find some information. And I wanted to also create a personal record of my experiences. A little bit about my story. In 2018, I was trying to get some life insurance, and the blood test showed elevated liver enzymes. And I spent a frustrating year and a half working with my doctor and a GI I was referred to, trying to figure out why my liver enzymes were elevated. And my motivation at that time was specifically just to get my enzymes down so I could get life insurance. And I did, it felt like every test known to man, blood work, liver biopsies, ultrasounds, MRIs. And after a year and a half, the GI doctor said, I put my hands up, I'm going to refer you to somebody who's a lot smarter than me, is actually what he said. And thank God he sent me to somebody he knew at Cedars-Sinai in LA. And in about a week's time, they went through all the materials and ran some tests of their own. And in August of 2020, came back and said, you have primary sclerosing cholangitis. And they started me on ursodiol. If you're at that point or going through that, I will make a future video with more details about all the specifics of being diagnosed, because it is a long process and it can be very frustrating. And I know some of you are going through that right now. I was a little relieved to figure out exactly what it was, but my first question to the doctor was, do you think I will be able to get my life insurance now, or we'll get this fixed? And he pretty much told me no. So at that point, I moved on to dealing with finding out that I had a progressive chronic liver disease, which takes a while to get used to. But over the next 4 years, most of the reports, and I was on ursodiol, I would get an MRI once a year, meet with the doctor twice a year, do blood work twice a year, and I had gotten quite used to everything being stable. And so I had kind of settled into it. I like to run. I was running a lot, active, traveling, working, just living life, and kind of thought that I would just ride out my life to the normal lifespan with having PSC but being stable. But in 2024, my liver enzymes started to increase, and I started to have some stomach pain in the fall, and I was had an ERCP. I won't even try to pronounce the full description there, but a stomach scope, basically, where they go in and inject dye into your bile ducts and get a good picture of it, and they can open things up and take biopsies and such. But I had my first ERCP in 2024, which brought relief. Stomach pain went away, liver function tests came back to normal, and I got about a year's relief out of that. And I thought maybe that was just a little bump and we'll just go forward. But I did start thinking about, it kind of sparked my interest into maybe documenting some videos or something to share with others. But over that year, I sort of moved on, and then I had imaging done last fall in 2025. And was a little bit shocked that my liver had really progressed to the cirrhosis level, advanced fibrosis, and I had signs of portal hypertension. And that was in September, and so a lot of tests and so forth. And by the time 2026 got here this year, early on, some of my liver numbers and so forth were kind of off the charts. I didn't have a lot of pains. The itching had got a little bit worse, and the fatigue and so forth. But then starting up in February and really escalating into March of this year, I started having the bacterial cholangitis attacks and being hospitalized because that can lead to sepsis and be pretty severe. And so what viewers can expect over time, this is just a brief overview, and I wanted to not make too long of an initial video, but I'll talk about what PSC is, not as a doctor or scientist or anything like that, but from my experience, my experiences with all the testing and blood work and imaging and so forth, which is a lot, what the cholangitis episodes are like, the flares and hospitalizations, the transplant evaluation process, which is interesting, and I just went through that in May, just a couple months ago, and what it's like to be listed and then waiting for the call, which I'm still adapting to. It is July 1st, and on June 5th, I was added to the liver transplant list, so I'm still preparing for that and getting ready for that. I'm going to keep documenting, and I don't know when I will get the call, whether it'll be 2 years, 1 year, tomorrow. That's a lot to deal with, but as we go, I will film the process and document it anyway, and then up to my transplant and then recovering afterwards, as well as I like to get back to my active life of running and living normal life and traveling with my wife and so forth. And I'll talk about what it's like living with that uncertainty and then trying again to maintain that normal life working. I still work while sick, and I have to travel for my job and so forth. And so finally, if you're living with PSC or a chronic liver disease, cirrhosis and so forth, or caring for someone that is, or just curious about it, I hope you'll follow along. Again, I'm not a doctor, obviously, and this is not medical advice, but it's simply my experience navigating this rare disease of PSC.